Hi, welcome to our TNT Thursday, the 4th of April, and we are going to have a bit of a deep dive from an article from Pattaya Mail about this incoming foreign tax money into Thailand. It affects Thais and some foreigners, and there's been so much confusion about it. Now, we will go into that article, which I think is very sensible and gives the, I suppose, latest perspective on that particular issue. But especially for you, Kev, in Thailand, just a very quick look at the IQ Air today, and again Chiang Mai up in northern Thailand being the #1 city in the world for the worst air pollution. Now we just go zooming in here to northern Thailand. This includes like Phrae, Chiang Rai, Chiang Mai, Lampun, Mae Sot, a lot of other places up there, and you can see that horrible air pollution still persists and looks like it's going to continue because if you go to the fire maps, we can see the situation where these fires, this is like a live show of what fires are actually alight from the satellite. The circle there circling northern Thailand, that same area, and the two arrows, this one showing for northern Myanmar and this arrow over here showing northern Laos. That's where the real concentration of the fires is. And if you've got the wind blowing in the wrong direction, well, northern Thailand suffers. But of course, as you can see, it's also contributing to its own level of forest fires, a situation that they just don't seem to be able to get a handle on. And we will keep on checking that. I also noted, though, that the Philippines, they seem to have their own forest fires, or whatever sort of fires they are, also causing a lot of concern, but the smoke from those fires can dissipate a lot more easily. Now, moving on to some other stories, big regional story, and we need to cover this. This is from straitstimes.com, and it's got 3 stories there. Taiwan Earthquake, terrifying episode, but life goes on in Taipei. Taiwan's biggest quake in 25 years leaves 9 dead. Like a mountain collapsed. Taiwan reels from biggest earthquake in 25 years. Let's go to one of these stories. And Taiwan's biggest earthquake in at least 25 years killed 9 people on April the 3rd, injured more than 900, while 50 workers travelling on minibuses to a hotel in a national park were missing. Some buildings were tilting at precarious angles in the mountainous, sparsely populated eastern county of Hualien, near the epicentre of the magnitude 7.4 quake, which struck just offshore at about 8 a.m. and triggered massive landslides. And the quake struck at a depth of 15.5 kilometres just as people were heading to work and school, setting off a tsunami warning for southern Japan and the Philippines that was later lifted, and the government put the number of injured at 946. Now, we'd imagine that the toll for deaths and injuries will probably rise in coming days, but that out of Taiwan, obviously a lot of regional coverage on that story. Now, this is one of those stories that keeps on coming up from time to time, so we return to it at the Bangkok Post. Ministry considers health scheme for foreign tourists again. And road and water accidents are the leading causes of injuries among foreign travellers, with some rental car shops and tourists deliberately not following the rules. So officials are looking at extending the universal coverage for emergency patients program to cover foreign tourists. So in the universal healthcare system they have here in Thailand, they also have a universal emergency care system, and that's the part that they're looking to extend to tourists. The Tourism and Sports Minister said the ministry already raised this issue with the Public Health Ministry and is awaiting a blueprint as the government determines a safety scheme as a key element of its strategy to elevate Thailand to become a tourism hub next year. Really, given the tourist numbers, I think you could already say that Thailand is considered one of the world's tourism hubs. Not sure why they feel they need to become a hub. But she said foreign tourists should be included in emergency medical services at all hospitals across Thailand. Some slightly scary statistics here. 128 tourists were injured while travelling in Thailand just this year, with 64 fatalities. Road accidents caused 82 injuries. Water accidents, mainly recreational cases, caused the largest number of deaths, tolling 18. followed by 15 fatalities from road accidents, 12 from personal health issues, and 2 cases of suicide. And last year there were 400 injured tourists and 185 deaths. And the minister said that adding foreign tourists to the Universal Emergency Scheme would help ensure their safety, complementing the current assistance program covering foreign tourist injuries or deaths. And the Commerce Ministry should regulate car and motorcycle rental shops that are registered with the ministry. Well, if they should, why aren't they already doing it? And registered with the ministry? I bet 90% of them aren't. And some operators do not comply with the law, such as not asking for a driver's licence before renting out a vehicle or not providing insurance for tourists. Well, guaranteed I can just pop down to the local bike shop here or in Phuket, show them my passport and pay them 300 baht and ride off with a bike. And the article says, meanwhile, some tourists don't follow safety rules, particularly driving motorbikes without wearing helmets. Seems to be no shortage of ideas of ways that foreigners can have some sort of insurance when they come to Thailand, either putting the onus on the foreigners by insisting that they have some sort of health insurance before they come here, or by providing a system that already exists in Thailand and giving them or availing them the same opportunities to the universal healthcare in emergency public hospitals. Right, to our next story, going to Pattaya, and British businessman fatally impaled in the chest by broken glass door. And a British businessman and expat died after falling on a glass door at his home near Pattaya on Wednesday morning, and the door broke and impaled him in the chest area. And Mr. Gareth was 54 and had large laceration to his chest, and police found at the scene a broken sliding glass door to the bathroom with bloodstains nearby. Mr. Gareth's wife, whose name's been withheld, told police that the deceased had been out drinking with friends last night. He returned home in the early hours of Wednesday morning. And the potential dangers of alcohol also addressed in this story from BangkokPost.com. Push for drink-free Songkran. And the Ministry of Public Health and health advocacy groups are calling for the upcoming Songkran to be celebrated with zero alcohol for the sake of public safety. And they say that the festival, which is between the 13th and the 16th, will be safer for all without alcohol, and that the water splashing fun should not involve getting drunk. Now, before you start tapping away on the keyboard, this seems to be more an advisory rather than something that's going to become a law during Songkran. And a recent survey conducted by the Thai Health Promotion Foundation showed that 88% of foreign tourists would be happy if alcohol were banned at the Songkran celebrations. Well, sounds like they conducted the survey at the Seventh-day Adventist Convention. Also, 75% of respondents, including foreign nationals, expressed their support for an alcohol-free Songkran initiative. And the opinion poll, according to this story, surveyed 939 Thais and 400 foreign respondents across 18 provinces. So discouraging people to drink too much during Songkran, probably a good idea. I don't think there's going to be a blanket ban, so don't get too worried. But if it's not alcohol, maybe vaping. And Bangkok Post again, the story says concerns rise over vaping by young people, and authorities need to do more to prevent e-cigarette use among young people, say participants who took place in a seminar that was held by the Action on Smoking and Health Foundation. And the Prime Minister has instructed the relevant agencies to address and halt the distribution of e-cigarettes in schools. He noted a survey by the Thailand Youth Institute, which found 72 shops selling e-cigarettes in the capital, 51 of them near schools. And the Institute also found that some e-cigarette products had been modified to increase their appeal to children, some featuring brightly coloured cartoon characters in their packaging and flavours such as candy, fruit and mint. And he said the threat of e-cigarettes among students is a great concern. We found that some new users are only 13 years old. It's even worse that some students even bring these products to sell at schools. And e-cigarettes are believed to be the main reason smoking is on the rise among young people in Thailand. And the number of young smokers had jumped from 3.3% in 2015 to 17.6% in 2022. That's almost 5.3 times. And the doctor stressed the importance of finding a solution to the vaping epidemic among youth, saying they face the risk of nicotine addiction for their entire lives. So pretty much, especially when you're young, sucking anything into your lungs other than fresh air isn't going to be good for you. And we acknowledge our sponsor, 5-Star Marine at 5starmarinephuket.com. There's a link in the description below for a special deal for TNT viewers. And if you go to that website, you can also find all the different destinations, plenty of photos and testimonials of people that have had a great trip with 5-Star Marine. And you could be one of them in the future. Now, to a bit of a quick deep dive into this article written by Barry Kenyon from PattayaMail.com. And a lot of people are posting a lot of bad information about this. I've seen entire YouTube videos, interviews with tax consultants, and a lot of what they're saying is complete rubbish. I mean, if you are concerned about this foreign monies coming into Thailand issue, you need to get independent, good advice. In fact, go to 2 or 3 different people. Because I dare say that a lot of accountants really don't fully understand the issue at the moment either. But I think this issue is well covered in this article as we're sort of 3 months down the track. And it says foreigners and their overseas income. What next? Remembering that this issue also covers Thai people. Any foreign monies coming into Thailand are covered by this change in the tax law. And more than 3 months after assessable foreign income became taxable, many of Thailand's expats are still swimming in a sea of uncertainty. Lots of advice online, but few definite answers. And senior officers from the Revenue Department have said little of late, although there's been a half promise to the Swiss ambassador in a televised interview to print the tax identification forms in English as well as in Thai. Well, that's certainly going to help if it applies to you. And there's a view amongst some Thai lawyers that we must wait until July for clarification on nitty-gritty issues such as double taxation treaties and the tax status of pensions. But other specialists argue that the Revenue Department needs not to clarify anything. After all, formal tax law did not change on January the 1st, 2024. There was simply the closing of a tax loophole which had enabled Thais or foreigners to delay transferring income here until a subsequent year. And the writer asks the question, will all foreigners who spend half a year or more in Thailand be required to register with the Revenue Department by obtaining a tax identification number and submitting the required forms? The submission deadline for the calendar year 2024 will be in the January to March quarter of 2025. And revenue spokespersons have hinted at the all-inclusive scenario, but there hasn't been a formal declaration. And could the tax officers cope with the rush? And there are some categories of foreign tax residents who will not be liable at all this year. For example, those who do not transfer any foreign income into Thailand in 2024, as well as holders of the 10-year long-term resident visa. But expats won't welcome the envisaged bureaucracy and likely registration with 2 tax authorities, the home country and in Thailand. And there's also ambiguity about the precise status of double taxation treaties, and everyone agrees that the revised rules about foreign income are designed to catch Thais and foreigners making profits from untaxed overseas businesses and foreign exchange and cryptocurrency trading. The problem, needless to say, could be small fish being caught in the net alongside the big ones. And if all expats living here for half a year or so are thrown into the same pit willy-nilly, then Thai authorities can expect non-working long-stay expats to become an endangered species. So I will put a link. There's a lot more details in that story. I'll put a link in the description of this video. But don't be worried about this. Go and get some information, do some homework, make an appointment with an accountant, go and speak to 2 or 3 accountants. It's not all sort of going to happen right now, but if you get your ducks in a row, if this does apply to you, it's going to make things easier when you sort of get to the end of this year and into the tax reporting time early next year. So information is king here, and that article from Barry Kenyon at pattayamail.com, quite a good overall perspective. Must see if I can get hold of Barry Kenyon. I'm not really sure how I do, but I'll see if I can and get him onto a Saturday program, because I think he's speaking some good common sense. And with that, I thank you very much for watching today. I mean, I'd really appreciate it if you do subscribe to the channel. Of course, a big thank you to 5 Star Marine. There's my lights flashing. That can't be a good sign. But I'll say goodbye. Have a great Thursday, and we'll see you tomorrow.